Welcome to TheRavensBrew. I'm Summer, and that's Molly, and we are your hosts. Now imagine this. What if one day you received an anonymous letter that knew everything about you? Your secrets, your habits, even things you've never told anyone. In the small town of Circleville, Ohio, that's exactly what happened to dozens of people. It started in March 1977 with threatening letters, but it soon spiraled into a web of fear, a mysterious death, and an unsolved case that still haunts the town to this day.
So, in March of 1977, anonymous letters began terrorizing the quiet town of Circleville, Ohio. These letters weren't just casual threats. They exposed deeply personal secrets and contained dark, disturbing messages. Over the course of nearly 2 decades, more than 1,000 letters were sent to residents in the town, spreading fear and distrust. The letters revealed intimate details about residents' lives, creating widespread paranoia. No one knew who they could trust, and even close friends and neighbors became suspects. The letters arrived during a time when trust in institutions were already eroding in America. Following the Watergate scandal, Americans were becoming more suspicious of their neighbors and even their leaders. Circleville, a small Midwestern town, was no exception. The letters turned Circleville into a community divided by fear, suspicion, and broken relationships. People were afraid to get their mail and open it, unsure what secrets would be exposed next. The letters led to public humiliation, personal threats, and ultimately acts of violence. Some families were even torn apart, and friendships were shattered as residents began accusing each other of being the letter writers. What started as an anonymous letter quickly escalated in August of 1977, when Ron Gillispie, a local man and husband of Mary Gillispie, died under mysterious circumstances after receiving one of these letters. His suspicious death marked a dark turn in the case. Was it an accident, or was it something more sinister? Despite an arrest in 1983, the letters continued to arrive, even when the alleged culprit, Paul Freshour, was imprisoned. The unresolved nature of this case has haunted this town for decades. To this day, no one knows for sure who was behind the letters or why they targeted Circleville in the first place. Now, Summer. Unresolved mysteries, the case left behind many questions. Who was sending letters? Was it just one person, or was it a group working together? And why did they target this seemingly quite quiet town? What do you think the answer is?
So when I first heard of this story, my original thought was this was the original Pretty Little Liars.
We did watch that together, but they did text message, which I feel is harder.
Well, it wasn't just text messages. They did send letters and stuff. But
do you think it's like a group of people or just like one person? No. You think it's one person?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it was Paul, the one that was arrested?
Paul Freshour?
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
I don't think so. Can't because say. I mean, this was not like super long ago. Like, it was a long time ago, but like 40, 50 years ago. But like, they still read prisoners' mail. I mean,
right. Mm-hmm.
So like, they would catch him in the act
once
doing
Paul
this.
Freshour was arrested, how could he continue to send these letters? So obviously it wasn't Paul, right?
Yeah, or Paul had somebody take over for him. Somebody knew about these letters. And how did one person know all this information about the whole town? Like, I know it says it's a small town. I mean,
that also kind of brings me back to like Bridgerton, you know, the gossip columnist,
Lady Whistledown.
Yeah.
Now, this mystery has captivated true crime enthusiasts for years. Could the real letter writer still be out there hiding in plain sight? Like, that's an easy one to answer. Like, of course, right?
Of course.
I mean, maybe they died because they said it was for 20 years, and that would have been 1997 that it stopped, right? So maybe the person passed away or something, they moved or something happened. Now, I know you love a good mystery. Can you imagine what it would be like if someone knew your deepest secrets? Other than me?
Other than you?
Other than me.
Well, I don't really have any deep, dark secrets.
You're such a liar, but okay.
I'm not a liar. I'm so
we
being
all
for real right now.
We all have deep, dark secrets that we wouldn't want to come out. It's not like I can say them right now.
Do we all? Is that for real?
Everybody has secrets. Like, to each their own on what they, think is dark and deep, because someone from a super religious family could think that something that we think is innocent be deep and dark.
Okay.
And they wouldn't want that to be out.
Honestly, I really can't imagine what it would be like because I don't really have too many deep, dark secrets. And everything that is deep and dark in my life, someone already knows. Molly. Circleville was a small, close-knit town in Ohio with a population of around 13,000 people in the 1970s. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, making the appearance of the Letters all the more shocking. Known for its annual pumpkin show, a family-friendly festival, Circleville was a quiet town, not used to scandal or mystery. The contrast between its cheerful public image and the dark Letters created a stir that still haunts the town till this very friggin' day. The Letters, which started arriving in March of 1977, my mother was 7 years old, contained intimate personal details about the residents. They were written in block letters to disguise handwriting, making it impossible to trace them back to a specific individual. The tone of the letters was accusatory and menacing, suggesting that the writer had deep knowledge of the target's personal life. They focused on topics such as infidelity, criminal activities. Mary Gillespie, a local school bus driver, was one of the first recipients of the letters. She was accused of having an affair with Gordon Massey, the school superintendent, in a series of letters that specifically targeted her family and threatened to expose her. The letters didn't just accuse her, they demanded that she ends the alleged affair or faces severe consequences. At first, Mary tried to ignore the letters, hoping they would stop, but as the threats became more personal and extended to her family, it became clear that the letter writer wasn't going away.
Was this personal? Or was it something not
Absolutely.
like
it was probably
just somebody
it was
that
probably Gordon's wife. It was probably Gordon's wife.
Because she was annoyed. She was mad. Like, that's my man. Get off my
That's
man.
my
You bus
husband.
driver.
Get
You're a
off my
bus
husband.
driver.
The letters shocked Circleville, creating a wave of paranoia. Residents began to second guess their neighbors, and rumors of affairs and dark secrets spread rapidly. Everyone in town was now suspicious of each other. Even local law enforcement was confused and initially dismissed the letters as pranks. But as the number of letters grew and the tone became more threatening, it was clear that this was no simple case of mischief. The case gained attention in regional news, which added pressure on local authorities to solve the case. The constant flow of letters with no solid leads on who was behind them began to frustrate law enforcement. Molly, what would you even do in Mary's position? Do you think she would have just ignored them, or would you have tried to track down the writer?
Deny.
What would you do in Mary's position?
I still say I would be like, I would try
You
to
would be like,
laugh it off.
Would you be like, it ain't me?
I would be like, look at this ridiculous thing that I got in the mail today. Like, oh my gosh, isn't this ridiculous?
I am happily married.
I got that rock on, baby. Real, right? Like, I would never cheat on Ron. Wasn't that his name? Rob?
It was Ron.
Ron?
Yeah. If I had done something like that, if I were having an affair with Gordon and my husband found out, I would confess.
Yeah. What does that say about me?
No comment.
And I would play it off and be like, look at these ridiculous letters. Like, now we're going to dive into the death of Ron Gillespie. After receiving several threatening letters, Ron Gillespie, Mary's husband, was warned that he knew about the alleged affair and needed to take action. On the night of August 19th, 1977, Ron received a mysterious phone call. The caller allegedly revealed the identity of the letter writer, prompting Ron to grab his gun and leave the house immediately to confront the person. Ron was found dead later that night after his truck crashed into a tree. His gun had been fired, but no evidence of anyone being shot was found. According to the police report, Ron had a blood alcohol level of 0.16, indicating he had been drinking. However, his family and friends strongly denied that Ron was a heavy drinker, making the alcohol reading suspicious. The crash raised several questions, particularly because Ron's gun had been fired, and there was speculation that he might have been run off the road or forced to crash. There was no evidence of another car at the scene, but some witnesses suggest that the car crash was staged. The firing of Ron's gun remains unexplained. Did Ron try to shoot at someone in self-defense before crashing? No one will ever know. Many in Circleville believe that foul play was involved, possibly orchestrated by the letter writer or someone else connected to the case. Some speculated that Ron had been lured out of his home by the phone call as part of a setup. There's also a theory that Ron discovered the identity of the letter writer, and that led to his death. Could the letter writer have killed him to prevent being exposed? And yet again, no one will know. The local sheriff, Dwight Radcliffe, ruled the death an accident caused by drunk driving. But his conclusion was met with skepticism. Many locals felt that the investigation was rushed and that the possibility of foul play wasn't properly explored. The handling of the case has been criticized for its lack of thoroughness, and some believe that law enforcement may have been influenced by local politics or other factors to keep the case from being investigated as a murder. Ron's family was adamant that the crash wasn't an accident and that someone was responsible for his death. They questioned the alcohol report and believed that foul play was involved. Now, Mary Gillespie, still reeling from the letters herself, faced a devastating loss of her husband under mysterious circumstances. The death only deepened the fear and paranoia in Circleville. Despite Ron's death, the letters did not stop, and this further fueled speculation that his death was part of a larger conspiracy. Some believed that the letter writer was responsible for his death, while others wondered if multiple people were involved. The fact that the letter writer continued sending letters after such a high-profile event left the town even more unsettled, raising the question of whether the real culprit would ever be caught. So, Summer,
Yeah.
what do you think? Do you think that the police were in on it? I think they so could have been, because like they could have been paid off.
I mean, anything is possible, but like, why? What would be the reward? What would be the need for them to be involved in this? Like, why would they? do
what
this?
if Officer Radcliffe, the one that closed the investigation, was the letter writer?
That's wild. It's possible.
I mean,
Anything is possible.
anything is possible, and it makes sense, like, to close the case so fast, to cover up, to all of a sudden have blood alcohol level of double what the legal limit is, and he wasn't a heavy drinker.
I think that is suspicious. Like, if his friends and family say that Ron does not drink, why was he drinking that night? Like, what was it that made him drink?
Did he find out about the letters and, like, he was just so upset?
He knew about the letters. And Mary told him immediately about the letters. Like, these were not secret letters. Like, he knew. Like,
so Mary came clean.
Mary came clean. I mean, maybe he kept his alcoholism, in the dark, quiet. Maybe nobody knew.
But I guess a lot of people can be double the legal limit and still seem somewhat normal. Like, that's just true. Tired.
Maybe he wasn't an alcoholic. Maybe he was just enjoying a couple glasses of, well, probably not. Maybe he had a beer or two.
It would be like 4 beers within a couple hours. Like, there's just so many questions. And if I was Mary, I would not have let this go that easy. I would have been down at that police station, like, this isn't right. This isn't right. I would have tried to hire, like a third party, like, person to redo the tests. I would be out there, like, monkeying it up with, like, my magnifying glass, trying to see, like, other marks and stuff.
So after Ron's death in 1977, the letters did not stop. In fact, they escalated in both frequency and scope. The letter writer expanded their targets to include more residents, and the letters began focusing on other town residents, as well as local politicians and officials. The wider range of targets created a sense of panic and fear. Many people felt as though they were being constantly watched by the letter writer. Some residents were so unnerved that they moved away from Circleville to escape the harassment. In February 1983, threatening signs began appearing along Mary Gillespie's bus route. On one particular day, Mary saw a sign that contained a threat directed at her daughter. When Mary stopped to remove the sign, she discovered a booby trap rigged to fire a gun. The gun was a .25 caliber revolver, and it had been crudely rigged to fire when the sign was pulled down. Thankfully, the gun malfunctioned and Mary wasn't hurt. The police were called immediately, and an investigation was launched into the booby trap and its origins. The discovery of the booby trap sent shockwaves through Circleville. The town, already terrorized by years of anonymous letters, was now facing the reality that the letter writer might be willing to physically harm or kill its targets. People in Circleville felt an even deeper sense of paranoia as the booby trap showed that the letter writer was escalating from threats to actual violence. Law enforcement increased its efforts to trace the letters and the booby trap. Investigators were able to trace the gun used in the booby trap back to Paul Freshour, Mary Gillespie's brother-in-law. Freshour admitted that the gun had been his, but claims that it had been stolen months earlier. Police believe that Freshour had a motive to target Mary, and when handwriting experts compared samples of his handwriting to the Circleville letters, they claimed that it matched. Freshour denied any involvement in the booby trap or the letters, but the handwriting analysis and the discovery of the gun were enough evidence for law enforcement to arrest him. In 1983, Paul Freshour was convicted of attempted murder in connection with the booby trap. He was sentenced to prison, but the letters didn't stop. Even while Freshour was in prison and in solitary freaking confinement, the letters continued, leading many to question whether he was really the mastermind behind the letters or if someone else was involved.
Solitary confinement and the letters are still happening. It's not him.
It wasn't him.
And why would he murder his brother? And my theory is, so they're saying that the letters are still going on to this very day, right? We have so much more technology. That's what he said.
It did?
Yeah. We have, I mean, and even if it's not, they're saying that it's unsolved to this day. But like back then, you licked the letter to seal it, right?
DNA. Yeah, I get where you're going.
Why haven't we done DNA on this to figure it out once and for all? But if it was Paul, his DNA would be on record, would it not?
Because when they take you into prison, they'll fingerprint you. I don't know if they DNA swab you, but
and I feel like letter writing analysis isn't 100% accurate because the person wasn't writing in their normal writing style. Like they were writing in block lettering.
They were trying to conceal kind of like a foresighted thing. Like I don't think if I were writing a letter that I would have the foresight to think that I should disguise my handwriting, especially in the 1970s. I wouldn't think that.
Oh, I would use newspaper clippings. And I'd get them from all the doctor's offices and all the dentist's offices, and no one would know.
Oh, Molly, you're creepy.
Yeah, you're welcome. Police traced the gun to Paul Freshour, Mary's brother-in-law. Freshour denied any involvement, claiming the gun had been stolen. Circumstantial evidence. Freshour was never charged with sending the letters, but was charged with attempted murder for the booby trap. The prosecution built its case on circumstantial evidence linking the gun and handwriting to Freshour. Freshour's defense argued that the evidence against him was weak and Freshour maintained his innocence, claiming the gun had been stolen and his handwriting had been manipulated. After his conviction, Freshour served 10 years in prison, but continued to campaign for his innocence. After his release in 1993, the fact that the letters continued during and after his imprisonment deepened the mystery.
So, was Paul Freshour really the mastermind behind the Circleville Letters, or was he just another victim in this bizarre case? Even with Paul behind bars, the letters kept coming, raising more questions than answers, and as we continue, there's much more to uncover. Was this a conspiracy? Or is the real letter writer still out there? If you're as hooked as we are, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment below with your theories, and subscribe for more. Trust us, you don't want to miss what comes next.
Freshour believed he had been set up, arguing that someone had stolen his gun and used it to frame him. He also questioned the handwriting evidence used to convict him. Because, like I said, could it have been the police? Mm-hmm. Theories have emerged that someone else may have been behind the letters, including family members with personal motives or multiple people working together. Some residents believe that local law enforcement was hiding something. There were rumors of possible cover-ups or that certain individuals in the town, perhaps those with influence, weren't properly investigated. The fact that letters continued while Freshour was in solitary confinement led many to believe he had been wrongfully convicted. Even after his release, the letters did not stop entirely. Just saying, you're in solitary confinement, you don't get nothing. You're like in a box.
Yeah, you're by yourself in a box.
You get like an hour of daylight, like 23 hours a day in a box. They'll pay off the guards. Like, you could slip the guard a note real easy if you had something on them.
That note better be a penny.
What if if he was the letter writer, maybe he had dirt on certain officers. How did he have all the dirt in the first place? But how would he continue to get dirt while he's in prison? And he's not out there to be Snoopy Dog and be snooping through people's lives, you know what I mean?
Digging through their trash,
but he's not out there. Letter. Even if he could, for somehow get the letters out, how would he get the information? He's in prison. But I wish I was behind the letters because I am nosy AF. Depending how good the gossip is, I might just slip a letter to someone else.
Right, for real. All right. Critics argue that law enforcement failed to explore other leads or suspects thoroughly enough. The forensic handwriting analysis used to convict Paul was disputed by some experts.
After media pressure, the FBI was asked to review the case in 1993. They found the evidence against Freshour to be inconclusive, particularly the handwriting evidence analysis. The FBI could not reopen the investigation fully because much of the original evidence had deteriorated and they had to rely on local records. The 1993 episode of Unsolved Mysteries brought national attention to the case and prompted renewed calls for an investigation.
Many criminal profilers believed that the writer was motivated by control and power. The personal nature of the letters, particularly those accusing people of affairs and illicit behavior, suggests that the writer had a personal motive.
The Circleville Letter case continues to captivate true crime enthusiasts. It has been featured in podcasts like this, documentaries, and books, keeping the stories alive in popular culture. The Circleville Letter case has similarities to other infamous anonymous letter cases. One of the most well-known is the Zodiac Killer. Despite years of investigations, the true identity of the Circleville letter writer remains unknown. The mystery continues to spark speculation with no conclusive answers about who is responsible. Who do you point the finger at?
I don't have any idea.
You don't think so? I think it's law enforcement. I think it's the officer.
They were writing the letters all along?
Yep, I think so. Like, it makes sense.
Why?
It all lines up. An officer knows a lot about a lot because they're all over all the time.
That's true.
They're all in everybody's business. They could frame someone pretty easily. They could easily steal someone's gun. They would know not to get fingerprints on things. They would know what not to do. They could easily point the finger at someone else, have tests manipulated, all kinds of things to make it easy. Like, I think that is the most blatant suspect. And I wonder if anyone went down that road. Like, it sounds like they theorized it, but nobody fully went down that, because who's going to investigate that if the FBI didn't even come out for 20 years?
Right.
True. What do you don't have any idea? You think it was
No, I have no idea. Like, if it's like, I don't think it was Paul. Like, it doesn't really make any sense that he would be the one writing these letters. Like, I guess your theory about the police department or maybe the mayor or something being involved would make the most sense, because but then why would they care? Why would they care that Mary is having an affair with the superintendent? Why would anyone care? Besides the wife of the superintendent.
Maybe the police officer made moves on Mary and Mary gave him a cold shoulder and he got his ego all deflated and then found out, well, lady, you're messing around with the superintendent and I'm the chief of police,
expose you.
and I'm going to expose you and I'm going to make your life a living nightmare. Like
HE double hockey stick.
Yeah, like you're done for. And like,
Dunzo.
also, that would make sense why the evidence deteriorated and wasn't handled properly, because the police didn't want them to find out ever.
Right.
And why they only, with 20 years later got the FBI involved. Because if they really felt as pressured as they said they did, they would have had the FBI involved a lot sooner, I would feel. Like earlier than 20 years. But they didn't want to be caught because it was them. I should be an investigator.
Who do you think was really behind the Circleville letters? Was it Paul Freshour, or could someone else have been pulling the strings all along?
If Paul Freshour was framed, who had the motive and means to continue sending those letters, even from prison?
Do you think Ron Gillespie's death was an accident? Or was it part of something more sinister?
Could multiple people have been involved in this plot, or was the letter writer working alone?
What do you believe was the real motive behind the letters? Was it revenge, control, or something else entirely? Let us know in the comments, folks.
And as always, stay curious and be mysterious.
Bye.
Bye.